On May 21st, 2024, one of the strongest tornadoes in U.S. history tore through Greenfield, Iowa. The catastrophic EF4 tornado, with peak winds measured at up to 318 miles per hour, swept through the town in less than a minute. This is the story of the tornado, the town of Greenfield, and how GoServ Global Domestic delivered hope to families in the community by helping them take their first steps in recovery.
I took over this position or this job title 1 week and 3 hours to the day of this tornado. So we had severe weather for several days there. And I was out the whole night before dealing with some flooding in northern Guthrie County. Then I had to race back down here to Adair County because we had some severe weather coming through that morning. We had, I think, 4 tornado warned cells that morning. Then I had a briefing with the weather service about midday, and we knew it was going to be a bad day that day somewhere in Iowa. Well, it just so happened to be looking like it was going to be right in the Adair, Guthrie County area.
Yeah, it started out kind of chaotic. I'm a janitor at the school now. And we had a severe storm go through that morning, and they said, Russ, go out in the parking lot, make sure all the kids are get into the school. And so I did that, and our superintendent, he called school at early, get us out at noon. More stuff was on the way, so that was a very good call on his part.
I had a meeting with the schools in both my counties, and we talked about the weather that day, the timeline. All the school districts in both my counties ended up closing early that day and sending kids home.
I was working at the hotel here in town that day, and we had a pretty severe storm that pushed its way through. A lot more severe than what we were normally used to. Ended up dying down, and it was a nice, beautiful day later on. And then I got a message from my husband that our kids were being let out early that day, which was really odd at the time, but we were very thankful that it did happen.
It was just a anxious type day, I guess. It was a very anxious type day, and things started changing in the afternoon, after dinner. And
I went back up to Guthrie County. I did my work there. I had reopened up some roads that I had closed through the night, and then the storm started popping in southwest Iowa. So I started to make my trek down this way. Got down to Bridgewater, kind of positioned myself there in the southwest corner of the county, and was just watching the weather, watching radar, communicating with the National Weather Service, and I see a black mass off to just almost straight west of me. And I'm kind of watching it. You can't really tell if it's a tornado or not. I'm really focused on that system off to the west, and then I look south, and I can definitely tell that that's a tornado. And so now I have 2 tornadoes two potential tornadoes. One I can definitely confirm. I can see the cone shape. I've been doing this long enough and been storm chasing long enough that I knew that I needed to get to the south side of it and away from it, so I could maybe get some eyes on it too. So I got on the south side of the southern storm. Of course, I could see on my radar that the other system had kind of fizzled out, but the other cell was growing in intensity and was starting to be real concerning of me. At that point in time, then the National Weather Service calls me again, and they have now shifted their focus from the original cell that they were trying to call me about to this new tornado. But they knew that the elevation of the storm was high enough, and then they were seeing that debris already, so that told them that this was going to be a big storm. And I got on the south side of it where I could see it, and that's when I knew my day was going to change. I knew my life was going to change. It was like something I'd never seen before. It was a large tornado. It had multiple vortices that were spinning and rotating around the main cone. It was a beast of a tornado, and it just, I could literally feel my heart just drop to the bottom of my stomach, and just that sick feeling. Typically in rural Iowa, we see tornadoes and they're running across the farm grounds, and they're kind of just bobbing back and forth and going around these farmsteads, and occasionally they might hit a farmstead here or there, but it's usually pretty minimal damage, but it was just literally mowing right over each farmstead. It didn't care what was in its path. It just kept going, and it was like it was hunting each farmstead that it was going to. I thought originally it was going to impact Fontenelle and a neighboring community here, and it was that point in time when I was like, I think this is going to hit Greenfield. So then I raced past that intersection that it kind of crossed in front of me. I literally was less than a half a mile from it at that point in time, which was way too close to a tornado that size. There was debris flying everywhere, and so it goes by in front of me. I go up to the next mile, and it's going across, and I'm watching it hit the windmills there, and it was crossing another 310th. It's a paved road that runs east and west here in Adair County, but it's crossing that road, and it's not real close to the wind turbine at that point in time, but it's close enough. And all of a sudden it just takes two blades off of this one wind turbine, but it just shredded them. And it wasn't even on top of that turbine. And then other turbines that it hit just folded them like wet noodles. Of course, I can't even think of how many farmsteads off the top of my head right now, but so many farmsteads that were just destroyed, leveled. And then it come across Lake Greenfield, and as it come across Lake Greenfield, it kind of took a even harder right-hand turn. But it took a radio tower right there, and it's our communications tower for dispatch and for state radio. That's when it is officially in town. And I come through Fontenelle, and I was cruising across Highway 92 to race towards Greenfield, because now I realize it's bearing down on Greenfield. So, and I was on the north side, and you could see the black mass of it, but you couldn't definitively know if it was still on the ground. And I was on the rain side of it, so all you could see was just the blackness. And so I race into Greenfield. The rain lets up where I am as I'm coming into Greenfield, and I'm just outside of town, and I remember, of course, I got my windows up and everything, and I'm like, what is that noise? I remember rolling down my window, and I'm like, oh, that's the Greenfield tornado sirens going off.
I just got off work, I guess, at 2:30. I went over to Mom's. Mom wasn't home, and her neighbor said, Russ, there's a tornado coming, Russ. Your mom's over at the other house mowing. So I went and shot over there, and she didn't have a clue what was going on. She was just mowing her yard and everything, and I yelled at my mother. Mom, you got to get home. There's a tornado coming. And of course she had to finish up. Okay. And I made sure she got home, and I took off. Whistle went off.
Well, I come strolling into town, and there's people walking down Highway 92, down the sidewalks. Some people walking their dogs. And so I started pulling up to them. I'm like, hey, we got a tornado coming to town. Started directing people to their homes, and I get down by Casey's, and there's an older lady there, and she was walking her dog, and I pull up there, roll down my window. So I get her into a house, a few houses down, just a random door that was unlocked, get her into the basement. I remember she says to me, you can't leave me here. And it's hard. Like, that's hard to do. But I remember telling her, I'm like, I can't sit here with you, you know, like I have to get back to my emergency vehicle. I need to get out of town, but I promised her, I'm like, I'll come back here for you. And you could hear it coming into town. You could feel it, you could hear the sound, and you could feel the vibration.
My husband ended up coming into work to cover a shift for me that night, and I went home, and that's when it started getting dark really quick, and I got a message from him that we needed to take cover right away.
And so I raced down to my truck, and you could hear it coming through, and that was probably about the time that it was coming right into town, into that first neighborhood. And I remember stepping up into my truck, and I looked up over the back of the truck and my topper, and it was like something out of a movie, you know, like half of a house up in the air, and trees flying.
Unfortunately, my kids and I couldn't make it into the basement in time once the power went out, so we decided to rush into the bathroom, and I hovered over both of my younger boys as a tornado rushed its way through. Shook our entire house. Never felt that way before, so kind of feel like I know what an earthquake feels like. We'll never forget the sound that we heard as well.
I heard the winds and that freight train coming, and things were starting to hit the house. I thought, this is real. So I shot off downstairs, and my wife and daughter was already there. So I wasn't there probably 10 seconds. But it was a pulsating freight, just hard to explain.
Yeah.
And quickly heard the ears popped.
And I didn't even have my doors shut. I don't even know that I was even fully seated, and I had already been on my brake and put it into drive, and then mashing on the gas, and it was literally running for my life at that point in time. And I was just like, oh, I need to turn left here at Highway 25 and go north, so because this thing is going further east than it is north. And but as I started pulling away, debris started falling down on me, you know, little tree branches and stuff, and I go to try to make that turn to go north, and kind of in the outer wind ring of it, and then I'm going so fast at that point in time, couldn't make the turn. I'm up into the curve and kind of up onto the grass and across the parking lot by the hospital, and then back out onto 92.
And you heard it kind of fading a little bit, so I shot upstairs, and I looked, and there was insulation all over the house, just like, at least I had a house. Half the roof was gone, but.
And then decided to come out of the bathroom once it was all over and took a look around, just saw windows were broken in the house and things were pushed all over the living room, and called my husband and told him that we're okay, just windows are broken, we'll just have to replace those. Decided to call my mom because I had 5 missed calls from her, and that's when I stepped foot outside and saw the houses were gone on our street, and our neighbor's house was sheared in half as well. That's when I got off the phone with her and called him, and just the only words that I could say is that everything is gone.
It wasn't until, I think it was the next day or maybe 2 days into it, and of course the weather service come out, and they're talking to me, giving me an update what the tornado was, what their preliminary estimate of the wind speed and rating was, and how long it took to come through town. And they're like, it went through the 1 mile stretch here in town in less than a minute. And then my heart dropped again. And I'm like, what? 1 minute, huh? And I thought to myself, had I turned that corner, because it come back across 92 and then across 25 right there, had I slowed down enough to make that turn, I may have gotten caught up in it. So after I didn't make that turn, I'm still running for my life, but I remember for probably 2 miles, there was little funnels that would come and drop down. Some of them would touch and go back up, and I kept telling myself, you gotta turn around and go back to Greenfield.
I shot over to my neighbors to the north, and their house was totally gone. And I found, expected the worst, hoping for the best, and they was there in the southwest corner of their basement, and they was just uncovering. Asked if they was okay. They said they were and everything.
I left a message for my family. I just recorded a quick message on my phone for my family. Again, I'm scared to death at that point in time. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know I have to go back to Greenfield. So at that point in time, then I turn and come back into town. I'm like, I have to go and meet up with that lady. And she's just west of Casey's a little ways. And I get to the 4-way intersection, and you can't go north and you can't go west any further. So I parked my car or my truck there, and I got out. One of the sheriff's deputies was there, and his car is like destroyed. At first I thought, were you in this? And that was my first question to him. And he's like, no, I was in the hospital. I was like, okay, thank God. And
I looked around and I thought, oh my gosh, there's people out here that need some help. There has to be. I shot across the road, and her house was gone. She was standing on a freezer in her basement, so I helped her out and made sure she was fine.
I remember I was sitting there talking to Russ, and he's like, my neighbor's house is just completely gone. And he's like, there ain't 20 foot between us. And I'm like, yeah, you were literally 20 foot from nothing. That neighborhood there, that first neighborhood it come into, I mean, there was nothing left. It took every single home in that whole first block, just leveled them.
Yeah, mom was fine. She didn't even really understand north side of town.
Yep.
Nobody.
They came out of their houses and went, whoa, that was close.
They dodged a bullet.
You know, I'm looking at what time of day it is. So a lot of people aren't home from work typically at that point in time. The main concern that I had outside of search and rescue was the roads were completely unimpassable.
I headed up the block, and there's this kid there, and I said, "You okay?" I think he was in shock, and I said, and he pointed at the lady. She was face down in the dirt, rubble, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, here we go.
Yeah.
So I got her uncovered and all the debris away, and I got her turned over anyway, and she was responsive, but she was a mess. There's a girl walking by, and I said, "I need some help over here," and she said, "Oh gosh, right. Call 911." I says, "I don't even know where we're at. They can't get here."
So even our first responder units were having to walk blocks through debris just to start checking each and every single house.
There's other people started coming around. A local nurse, retired nurse, she showed up and started helping her, and I moved on. There was plenty of help there, but went across the street. I didn't know where I was. I heard a buddy of mine needed help, and I couldn't find his home. But I found this lady was in her basement. So a group of us guys trying to figure out how to get in there, but I weaseled my way down in there, got her out. Like I said, I didn't know where I was.
You'd been here all your life, and all of your landmarks and you were lost a block from home.
A block from home. I was lost. And that was a very weird feeling. And I was upset I couldn't find my friend. But found out they got him. Mm-hmm. So I went back and I got they was tending to that lady, and we got her rolled on an old piece of plywood. Somebody had a pickup there, and we carried her over. I still don't know who that lady is, but apparently she was fine. So that was nice. So
and so I get those guys, the fire crews. There's fire departments from neighboring communities coming, and I'm just directing them to start doing an initial first check of residents and stuff. I can tell you within minutes there's walking wounded. We end up initially staging walking wounded at the Casey store there. The parking lot was empty, and so we just used it as a kind of a staging area for the walking wounded initially, because you couldn't even get to the hospital easily either. So we started kind of directing them there, and then my next call was to secondary roads. And I called the engineer and I said, "Nick, I'm going to need you to get some guys out here with road graders and snow plows, whatever you can get. I need to get these roads opened up so we can make it passable to get ambulances and fire trucks and stuff down."
And then I got home and "Oh, Russ, you got a skid loader. There's streets need." I was trying to save the world that day.
Yeah.
Adrenaline kicked in.
Oh yeah.
And I was probably acting stupid. I don't know. I don't know, but I had to help everybody. So I got in the skid loader for a while and helped clear some streets and stuff.
And within 4 hours, every street in this town was passable by two-way traffic. They registered this wind speed at 318 miles an hour on the ground. So that's the highest wind speed ever recorded in the whole world.
So after I was able to finally get home and make sure my wife and kids were okay, and we were helping some of the neighbors get dug out of their houses, I called to let my mom know that we got hit, we're okay, but we did get hit. We chatted for a couple minutes, said that she was trying to get a hold of my grandma and grandpa and that she'd get back a hold of me. And it was maybe 5 minutes later that she called, and I mean, you can just tell something was wrong. They live right up the street from them, so they can see down the hill, and they knew my grandparents were gone. I sent Jenna and the kids up to Winterset to her parents just to get out of town, kind of that safety. Kids didn't need to be seeing what was going on. And I rushed down there, and the house that I grew up going to Christmases, Easters, my grandma was the pinnacle of our family.
Never saw her sit down and always made sure you had food on your plate, and just wanted to join in every conversation that was going on, and pictures every time was always pictures. But she always hosted everything.
And the house was just gone. Nothing was left. Wiped everything out right behind the hospital, and it was just gone.
Down in that area, there's a pot of flowers.
It's just for us.
The tornado come through and, everything in its path it destroyed, like you said, killing 4 people. They finally, completed their rounds and everybody was accounted for, even the ones that passed. But when I decided to venture out, it was a sickening feeling. Sick feeling every time I turned and got close to where the tornado path was. So finally, halfway through, I turned around and come home.
Yeah, and my brother was he was way up in northern Iowa, and he called back, wondered how his house was, and Peyton says, "You have no house, Scott." So that he was pretty upset about that. He wasn't here, but it's a good thing he wasn't. He would be gone, because it was a house without a basement. It was on a slab, so God was with him on that day. So yeah, but he got back, and it was there wasn't a lot there to save. So
our son's always kind of been weather aware, weather conscious, and I think this just kind of pushed him over that edge where it's going to take a while to get kind of comfortable with it again.
So did the kids have any friends that had lost their homes, or?
Yeah, a couple.
It's kind of strange to have to explain that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hard to explain to them, but they're old, they're at that point where they see it and then they understand.
But there's still a lot of families that it's affecting them still today. The tornado siren goes off, even if it's the monthly test, it kind of sends people into that panic mode, There's still some kids that they weren't even, I know some kids that weren't even truly affected. I mean, their homes had some damage or whatever, but they were on the outer edge of it. But they had friends, and they literally could walk out their front door and look down two houses or whatever, and nothing's there.
Right.
And they lived that. They saw that every day. I mean, it legitimately looked like a war zone, like Afghanistan here, Like there truly was a war that happened here.
Yeah.
And those, I mean, that's hard. That's hard to see, especially as a kid.
Mm-hmm. It's a visual that most people just don't ever. It's like as an emergency management, person, a lot of people could go their entire career and not have, a scenario like you ended up with. Have you ever seen anything like this? Has Greenfield ever come even close to something like this?
Nothing of this magnitude. We've had little ones, especially when I was younger, we had little ones in my neighborhood, but nothing this magnitude at all. Nothing compares to this.
My name is Dennis Anderson, and I am the Domestic Director for GoServ Global. Grew up in a small community in north central Iowa on a farm as an only child. Spent 20 years on the farm, 20 years in youth ministry, and now I get to combine those doing the domestic work at GoServ Global. GoServ got started, GoServ Global, by a man named Ken DeYoung, who was helping fly people in and out during the Haiti earthquake in 2010. He had a friend that he had been supporting on the mission field for years named Terry Baxter. When he came back, Ken and Terry met and they decided they needed to help in Haiti and then potentially some other areas in the world. And they founded GoServ Global in 2011, and I joined immediately in September of 2011. In 2011, in the spring, there was a tornado that went through Albert City where I live, and I was a youth pastor there at the church in Albert City, and I took some students out. And in the meantime, it had just missed Ken DeYoung's house, and a town by him got hit called Ware. And we went over and assisted in Ware. I met Terry Baxter, and my entire life I've always had a desire to help people, especially in situations like natural disasters. So met Terry, we talked, and then decided to come on board and develop the domestic ministry in 2011.
We had two tornadoes that came through Lake Panorama. I think it was like in 2013, Mother's Day in 2013, and Dennis, he was a little bit younger then, but he showed up at our door the very next day and wanted to help, and we had no idea who he was, but we needed some assistance, so we threw him at it, and he did a great job coordinating volunteers and helped us tremendously on the cleanup efforts.
So in the domestic branch, I'm the domestic director, so that involves a lot of logistics to make things happen. So number one, we have to raise resources. Number two, we decide, when a disaster hits in the Midwest, if it's one that we will go to, and that's based off of, how big the need is, how much destruction there is, does it overwhelm the community, things like that. So if we decide to go to a disaster, we'll get all the equipment together and then head there. Recruiting volunteers, leading the charge at the disaster site. At this point, a lot of the maintenance, equipment operations. So I do everything from A to Z basically at this point. We have another full-time staff member, Barb, Miester, who does a lot of the administration and the people side of things, manages the volunteers when they show up and sends them out to the job site, and then helps work with the victims.
Hi, I'm Barb Miester. I am the domestic administrator for the domestic side of GoServ Global in Albert City. Each disaster is different, and each disaster teaches us more, and each disaster continues to just break our hearts more and more, which for me is a good thing, because it reminds me of what a privilege it is to get to serve these people and help them with their new normal, bring them the answers to the questions that they have, and just be able to get them started working towards a new home or whatever they need to do.
So volunteers are a crucial part of our ministry. So we have volunteers who are professionals, equipment operators, and even we've had some people come in that have counseling background to help work with the victims, and then everybody down to just people who rake and handpick, and they're all important. Volunteers, without volunteers we could not do what we do. 90% of the work is done by volunteers.
My name is Tim Samp. I'm from Algon, Iowa. I'm retired from a life of construction work. The best part of volunteering, just seeing how it affects everybody and how grateful they are we're there to help them out. And
So what'd you think about working with us?
I liked it. I enjoyed it. I really did. It feels good to do it. It really does. I mean, with the circumstances, but
Right. I mean, it wasn't a good circumstance anyway, but at least you
you
could.
could go and help people that are actually helping people too. And
My name is Paul Dick. I'm not sure exactly if I have a job title. I just kind of do anything that is necessary or needs to be done at the disaster site, whether it's organizing of which location site we should go work on or what needs to be done at the location site, just talking with the volunteers, making sure they know where they're going, or the victims. So the best part of working is just being able to see the stuff that we can accomplish and knowing how much it's helping the people from the bad situation we're in order to get themselves back up and going more in the direction of wherever they need to be.
So GoServ Global has a biblical worldview, meaning we believe that God created, that man chose to rebel, and that God put in the plan of salvation through Christ living a perfect life, dying for our sins, and raising from the grave so that he could pay for our sins. That's our motivation for what we do, that biblical worldview. And we share that by, number one, helping people. God calls us to help one another. And when we go out there and help people in need, we're helping them, being the hands and feet of Christ. And as we do that, we have the opportunities to sit down, listen to their story, and then we can share with them why we're there. We're there because we have a biblical worldview. And we make a practice of praying, offering to pray with every family. And at this point, I can't remember a family that's refused that. And that would be a couple thousand families over the last 14 years. So the way we decide who we're going to help, first, when we get into a community, we will try to partner with some local churches, with the emergency management, because this is their community. It's not my community. We're there to assist them. So we want to find the people with the most need, elderly, widows, single moms, people with medical conditions. That's who we're going to target and help first. And then after that, we'll help anybody in the community that needs help. But those are the first ones we want to assist, is those who will really struggle in helping themselves.
And first of all, one of the hardest things is for somebody to ask for help.
Yes, that's the hardest thing.
That is the hardest thing, and I
Because
know
a lot of them, you go to them and say, hey, these people will help you. Well, what's it going to cost? And they said, nothing.
Nothing.
Well, how can they do that?
As a nonprofit, we depend on generosity of individuals, churches, corporations to do what we do. Running heavy equipment and providing these resources for the volunteers to use is expensive. So we've been blessed with generous donors and blessed with volunteers. We can't do what we do without volunteers.
after the storm, we actually were already deployed to Potawatomi County, and had spent a month there after, I guess they call that the Minden tornado.
Yeah.
We took care of all of the county stuff.
Minden, Iowa, we spent a month in the rural community, working with multiple families, helping them clean up acreages, and a lot of those families lost houses. So we brought in heavy equipment and volunteers there. Then we moved directly to Greenfield, Iowa.
And then Greenfield was hit. We were kind of finishing up in Pottawatomie County, so got in the car and I drove over, and then I had to get in line to hold court with you and plead our case.
And you were up front with me and said, I can't be here today, I can't be here tomorrow, but we want to come. I was almost ready to just tell you guys, no, we got enough going on here. We got so many NGOs, and I don't even know what it was, but for some reason I was like, yeah, let's just do it, you know? And I was willing to take a chance, and man, I was never so thankful. And I remember seeing Dennis for the first time, and it was just because I had that previous interaction with Dennis, and and I remember looking out across that yard, and I'm like, I know that guy. I know that guy. I remember going and talking to my counterpart Bob, and he was like, I was like, hey, do you recognize him? He's like, yeah, he looks really familiar. And then it all of a sudden like hit us. And I remember feeling that sense of relief then, because although GoServ was probably in its earlier stages at that point in time, the work, the word of God that you guys pass to people there in Lake Panorama, I knew of, and I knew what you guys were capable of doing. I knew you guys were there to help people anyways.
Right.
So
We spent the following 6 months after the tornado in an RV. At first parked right next to, in the driveway right next to where our house was. And yes, at first we were told we were going to be able to fix it. In fact, they told us to go ahead and get started on some of the repairs, and we'd figure out the rest later. Thankfully we didn't. It went back and forth until finally we got to our last adjuster. He came out and made the call that damage had just gone far too high on it. So
because we stayed with Mom for 3 days.
Nothing like moving back home, is there?
Yeah, that's right. That's why we looked at each other and said, well, we could live in this house. Half of it was gone. We had it tarped. We lived in the other side of it. So we lived there for a little while till our insurance and getting our contractor, and it seemed like a train wreck. Everything was a struggle. So we moved in there for a couple months, and finally things started working. So we moved out to that place up the street. Thank God for our small town people.
Basically the first few days, the first week and a half, volunteers just came. At first it was a great number, you know, up to 50, 75 a day. And then it started to wane off until we would have maybe 5 or 10. And they would go out basically and just do the hand picking of properties, just to get them cleaned up with the smaller things. And then Dennis always had his volunteers lined up that would do the work with him, and the excavator and the skid loaders actually taking down the houses and removing them.
So the volunteers that showed up at Greenfield, we were able to manage and make them successful in cleaning up. And we there worked with more than 60 families. We removed 45 basements, tore down about 35, 40 structures, and hauled out close to 40,000 yards of debris out of that town.
The daily process at Greenfield, we'd usually get up earlier in the morning than what I wanted to, because I'm not an early riser.
I would get up first thing in the morning, fix breakfast. The volunteers would come over and we would have breakfast.
We usually get up early, maybe have some breakfast, go out and discuss the day, what we're going to do. And
Barb would have made something for us to eat, but we'd still probably end up stopping at Casey's and grabbing a drink before we'd meander to whichever site it was. We discussed what the project was and how we wanted to attack that.
after that, it's, who knows, I mean, it might change. Go out and help somebody tear down a house or clean up a basement or just clean up a yard. Or
Kind of split off as to who would be driving which vehicle or operating which piece of equipment, and then attack.
And then the guys would go out and get to work. I would go to the volunteer center and get all the volunteers signed up that were coming to work that day and send them out to all the different projects, whether they went and worked with Dennis at the GoServ Global spots, or if they just went out and did some hand picking. So I just basically worked with Jermey, the emergency management coordinator, and we managed the volunteers.
You managed the disaster.
Yep.
It wasn't this person and this person to ask for. What made it easy for us was I came to you.
Yep.
And if you didn't spit the answer out, you went and found it and then came back to me.
Yep.
And that is what makes the emergency management part of it for us so much easier.
Yes.
Yeah, honestly, everything went really well in Greenfield. There's always the challenge. We had a couple trucks break down, and equipment's always a challenge to keep running, especially with the type of work we do. It's just hard on equipment. So we were blessed with people who stepped up and helped repair that equipment, and donors who specifically gave to some of those repairs. The tornado in Greenfield was more violent than most of the tornadoes that we have helped clean up. And some of the things that we saw were, they were just quite amazing. We've seen houses. We tore down 2 houses that were literally pulled off their foundation. The foundation was there and the house was shifted off of it, but the house was intact. We saw snowplows, so the big snowplows, the V-plows on the front of state vehicles that were picked up by the tornado and thrown a couple blocks. We worked on a house where the wind speed was clocked at 318 mile an hour. And to see some of the things that there was a tree that had 20 or 30 different things impaled into it. So the tornado stripped the tree down except for the biggest branches, and then there was all this debris that was impaled into the tree. Just things like that. The Greenfield tornado was a very strong tornado, and a lot of people talk about the different things that tornadoes do, and I've seen a lot of those firsthand. So this was just another experience where we saw some things that just are kind of like, just jaw-dropping.
The city of Greenfield and the emergency management director, Jermey, did a great job of not putting a bunch of clamps and rules and things down on us, so we were able to flow quite easily in getting things taken care of.
It was, unfortunately, we say it was easy to work here.
Yeah.
Because, the relationship that we were able to, to build, and then, Dennis could go off and do his thing. He was managing those volunteers and getting all of that work done.
Yeah.
And it just, the part that we love that happened here and the way you ran it allowed us just to basically mix into the community and do our thing. And we became part of this community.
You did. Wholeheartedly, you did, yes.
And that's what we love with our volunteers.
Yes.
Our volunteers left here knowing Jermey and knowing this person and this person.
Yeah.
So it's just that culmination of how good it can be if we really do try and work together.
Overall, Greenfield was really a really good experience for us, and I hope it was a good experience for Greenfield to have us there. We were able to work in the community and live in the community, which that doesn't always happen. We had a perfect place to stay. We had volunteers showed up every day to help us, and yeah, logistically, everything went very smoothly.
So this is a government job, and there's a fine line that you can walk. There's black and then there's white, but I do believe that there's a gray area too. You guys were able to operate in the gray areas that I really had to try to avoid, all that debris that we can't touch. you guys are the ones that touched it. You guys are the ones that picked it up. Sometimes I turn around the corner here and there's Barb out there literally sitting down on the ground sorting through debris. I mean, like trying to find little knick-knack stuff for people and just trying to find whatever you could of their life that might still be left.
I mean, you came in at one of the hardest parts of our life. We lost two of one of like the biggest people to us, and we were unsure of losing our house and just stuck in an RV. You and your organization quickly became our go-to for if we needed some help for anything. When we were some of the last people in town to find out our house was coming down, you guys were the ones that stepped up and helped us. We were that last couple houses. We were on the verge of it being covered by the state, where any longer it would have been on us to get that taken down, and that's thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. Yeah. So
we had 42 homes that I identified that needed to either be demoed or had some serious damage that potentially needed to be demoed. We can't move or tear down those properties. Mm-hmm. But you guys could. So you guys worked with each one of those homeowners. Then you guys end up tearing down those homes, tearing out the basements, the foundations. There was one or two other NGOs too, I think, that were around. And I remember they were giving me timelines. And that was one thing. You guys never gave me a timeline, never said, hey, if you can't provide this within this amount of time, then we're leaving.
You know, we are saving families money, but the majority of the time they don't care about that. I mean, they do. That is helpful to them. But really, they're just so thankful that we came in and we provided them hope, because they didn't have any idea where to start. You know, their house has been blown apart, and it's just overwhelming to them. For us to come in and to come alongside them, the most valuable thing to them is us providing hope and helping them get getting restarted in their life, getting that property cleaned up. So again, we do this because we firmly believe in the biblical worldview and that God has called us to do this. God has called us, greatest commandment, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. And then the Great Commission is to share that message with everyone that you come in contact with.
But I do remember the one gentleman there, the blue roof house, or we always called it the Wizard of Oz house. So yeah, the house that got lifted up, turned sideways, and then set back down. But I remember I stopped there 30 times, I bet. And I would see him in the yard, and I'd pull up there, and it didn't matter which one of my vehicles I was in. And I'd pull up there, and he would disappear. I remember I ended up having a conversation with you and about that property, and I was like, I can't talk to this guy. He won't respond to me, won't answer the door. And
I ended up I remember when I decided to go up there and talk to him. And there were several of you guys were around, and everyone's like, you're just gonna get chewed up and spit back out.
Yeah.
And I remember knocking on that door, because he was living in the garage.
Yeah.
I knocked on that door and he just yelled, what do you want? And I said, I just want to talk. Because he came at the door, and it was, again, just like the movie where that door whips open and you're like, hi. And I really thought he was going to eat me alive. And he started in, and I, was able to just, back at him. And then he started, throwing scripture at me. And thank God I was able to throw scripture back at him. And we finally kind of had this, like, okay, and we were like, tit for tat, back and forth a little bit. So, and he kind of came out and he shut the door, and we talked and we really started talking. And he comes back with this Bible, and it was a hardcover Bible, and it's called the Rainbow Bible. And every passage, every line in it is a different color, and they're all like joy and sin. I mean, it just classifies all of it. And he gave me that. He says, I've been waiting for somebody to come along to talk to give this Bible to, and I want to give it to you. And I remember coming back, and it was a good hour later. Came back, and I walked in with this Bible, and you're all like, you talked to him?
Right.
You know, it ended up being a nice conversation, and he signed the papers, sold the property, I think, and left town. But just knowing that, you know, he was untouched and needed to be talked to, or needed some help. And that's again the best part about what we get to do, is just to be able to reach him.
Yes.
That's, you know, and I don't know, that's what we love about being able to bring our volunteers in, and also letting them be in those situations to meet those people.
I think in Greenfield we were able to really connect with the community in ways that we haven't in other disasters. We felt really connected with the community. You know, we were able to eat at the local restaurants.
The best part about being such a small organization is the fact that we can sift ourselves into the town. And by doing that, we get to live among the people that are affected and the people that weren't affected. I mean, we all know that we went to the Methodist Church for lunch. That's where lunch was. And even people that hadn't been affected were there. Everybody just came, and it was, again, it's a Greenfield thing. Everybody came along, and the ones that weren't affected were supporting the ones that were affected. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that we're just seeing over and over and over with Greenfield, that we want to give our volunteers that opportunity to become part of your lives too. And that's a little bit different than just being able to come in and clean it up, you know, and then just move on. We want, since we rely so heavily on the volunteers, we want them to come in, and we want them to know Tom and Jenna. Mm-hmm. You know, we want them to be part of your lives, and so you can understand that good people still exist, and people will come to help, and to be able to coordinate that is one of my favorite things to do.
I guess what really surprised me the most when I volunteered is how many people there are that just give themselves from all over the state or even out of state, and when there's something that needs to be done, they just show up and do it.
We do help one another, you know, when the crisis hits, and everybody come together, like, you know, just everything fell into place.
Yep.
You know, a little bit of discussion, and then, you know, somebody said, let's get it done.
Yep.
I think that's what helped get everyone through, is just the talking. You try to, you get finally focused on doing some work, doing some cleanup, and here a neighbor comes by, and you know what, I guess that was the good part, because you stopping by, we all just talked about it. And I still today, it was medicine.
It was just taking your mind off it for a little bit, and all of a sudden friends were just gathering again.
Yeah.
You know, you were in the same boat as a lot of people, so you knew that, you know, the person next door was just going through exactly the same thing. So it was taking that time just to stop and be friends with each other again.
Yeah.
Just, you know,
Yeah.
hey, how did you do today?
Yes.
So.
Yes. Yep. I think that's just all our neighbors. Yep. That's how we got through it. Yeah.
And I think that's what Greenfield we took away from Greenfield, was just that how easily they let us blend in.
Yeah.
So.
Open arms. Yes. Open arms. We needed help.
Yeah.
We needed help. Yeah, we couldn't do it alone. We did have tons of volunteers, local construction company, Shellbergs. Yeah. Yes, God bless them. And then, of course, they had to get back to work. Yeah. And here you were. You're still there for us. Yeah. That's very heart-wrenching. It really is. Yes, you were there for us.
Well,
yeah.
It was the match, and I think that's exactly what we look for when we go looking for, you know, the disaster that we can actually be helpful in. To be able to find a spot that actually will embrace what we're doing, and we can make this all very personal then.
Yeah.
And it is. When we come, it's like we're living here, and nothing else is mattering. We live in Greenfield right now, and and
Yeah.
this is what we're doing, and every day.
And all the people that you helped, yeah, like your neighbors.
Yep,
Helping your neighbors.
absolutely. It's like you knew where you needed to be at 5 o'clock because everybody was coming out of their houses down the bottom of their driveways to talk about the day. And that's the kind of town Greenfield is.
Yep.
Is very communal.
Yeah, it is.
Good.
Yep.
So, well, we're
and
glad
we haven't
could
lost
come.
it. I mean, we haven't lost that.
Yeah.
It was stirred up for a while, but now we're getting back to, I guess, our new normal.
Your new normal.
And we have a new look in Greenfield.
Yep. Tell me about the last year. You've got everything in place. You're seeing all this rebuilding. What are your hopes and your dreams, and what are you seeing?
I just hope, we still got some empty lots. Hopefully we'll have people build on them. I think I think the census is some of them are going. Some are slow, but they're going to.
When we first came into Greenfield, seeing the devastation of blocks and blocks of areas of Greenfield that used to be houses and trees and yards, and everything just piled up and pushed to the curb. And then when we left town, just seeing how it was cleaned up and the progress that was made in the short time we were there. And then also going back and seeing how Greenfield has recovered and how many of those empty lots are now new houses being built on those lots was impressive.
I didn't fully have a true grasp of what you guys could possibly do. Looking back, I can't believe what you guys accomplished here. I never would have even thought it, even though I felt comfortable after I saw that it was Dennis and everything. I just, even then, I just thought, looking back, there's no way that you guys did all that, but you did.
It's just been a long road. It has. But we live to tell about it.
Humanity has a great ability to adapt to different situations that we're thrown into. No matter how bad we think it is, we always are able to pull ourselves out. Sometimes we need assistance. Sometimes we need a lot of assistance. Not everybody knows what assistance they all need, and I think different people fill those gaps in different ways, whether it's a friend of the person, their pastor, us coming in and just giving them that helping hand, another volunteer just walking by, or just the coexistence between the victims knowing that they will all be able to get themselves back and going again.
Our main level of our home, it's very level. We're back.
Mm-hmm.
We're back now, and the wife's happy, so I'm happy.
We moved into a new house. We decided against rebuilding. It just,
The
cost was too much. We lucked out and was able to move into a family member's house, which worked out great because losing my grandparents the way we did, we have very little of their house, anything to remember besides our own memories and photos that we have. So to go through this house that had so many pictures and memories of my grandparents being a part of it was incredibly special.
Tom Wiggins.
Yep.
Is in, a family house, and we just talked to the mayor, and he's in, it's just crazy how this town is just, it's set in tradition.
I think so. I get that feeling from it.
And do you think that's a little bit more about why it all came together the way it did? I mean, year in, year out, and the change in this town, I mean, just the amount of construction and things that are status quo back to normal is just incredible.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So this is stuff that just doesn't happen to everybody. This is so extraordinary that but it really builds that character. And now it's part of your history, and it's part of Greenfield's history. This was that canopy town that was just picturesque, and now you're going to have that history of regrowing it.
Yes, and we'll get there. We'll get there. You've driven around the town. It's getting better. I'll never see a full-grown tree in my front yard, and that's kind of, or in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
We'll make it. It's all right. It's okay.
We lost somewhere right around 180 homes and businesses that were destroyed or heavily damaged. I think we're somewhere around 120, 130 homes, and all the businesses except for one have either rebuilt and reopened and in full operations now. So, yeah, it's night and day. It's not what it was before. You know, we're gonna have that scar from this tornado for as long as I'm alive, as long as my kids are alive, and probably even my future grandkids are alive. You'll always be able to see that scar from this tornado. I mean, it was literally pulling out the foundations out of the ground, you know, and uprooted lives here, and some of those lives will never come back here. Those families that might have moved away, they're not going to rebuild here, and that's fine. But what has been rebuilt, it's
beautiful.
It is beautiful.
It is beautiful. There's only one way to end this. It's this way.
Yeah,
This is you. Oh, Miester. I'm so glad you came into my life.
Yep, you too. Absolutely.
It's, you know, you hate for something like this to happen. You
Yeah,
have to meet people, but doggone it.
There's good things in every bad thing. You just gotta find it.
GoServ Global Domestic exists to fulfill the biblical worldview and make volunteers successful in helping those impacted by natural disasters. Please consider donating or volunteering today to help us help the next community impacted by a natural disaster. Visit GoServGlobal.org to learn more.